What if the key to freedom from chronic arthritis pain wasn't in a pill or a procedure, but in a forgotten practice? We're taught to seek solutions outside ourselves, but for one man, Arthur, healing began with a new perspective. This isn't about dismissing medicine. It's about adding a powerful, overlooked tool to your health arsenal. Arthur's story challenges us to look beyond the conventional and discover what simple truths we might be missing in our own search for relief. Let's walk with Arthur and see how he transformed his life, not just managing pain, but teaching it to fade away. For many with arthritis, the world loses its color, every action shadowed by pain. Waking up is a struggle. Joints feel locked, every movement a negotiation with discomfort. Simple tasks, opening a jar, walking stairs, holding a mug, become daily battles. The world shrinks, confined by pain and fatigue. Even the weather becomes an enemy, joints aching with every storm. This is the silent reality of chronic arthritis. Pain is a constant companion, coloring every moment. Life becomes a series of obstacles, each one draining your spirit a little more. Meet Arthur, a retired carpenter, a man who dedicated his life to shaping wood, creating beautiful and functional pieces that stood as testaments to his skill and dedication. His hands, once strong and steady, were his most prized tools. They danced across the wood, coaxing out its hidden potential, transforming raw materials into works of art. Arthur's hands once built beauty, crafting intricate furniture, sturdy homes, and cherished keepsakes for his family and community. Each piece bore the mark of his passion, a legacy etched in wood. He poured his heart and soul into every creation, finding immense satisfaction in the tangible results of his labor. But now those very hands are twisted by osteoarthritis. The cruel irony is not lost on Arthur. The tools that once brought him joy now mock him with their silent challenge. The pain is a constant companion, a relentless reminder of what he has lost. His days began before dawn, not by choice, but by the insistent throbbing in his joints. Sleep offers little escape, and the early morning hours are a battle against the encroaching pain. The darkness amplifies his sense of isolation, a stark contrast to the vibrant life he once led. It's the pain that forces him from bed, a reluctant awakening to another day of struggle. Each movement is a conscious effort, a negotiation with his own body. The simple act of standing becomes a monumental task, a testament to the debilitating power of arthritis. Each step was a challenge, a deliberate, agonizing process. The pain radiates through his body, a constant reminder of his limitations. What once was effortless now requires immense concentration and willpower. The man who built homes, sturdy and strong, now struggled to cross a hallway in his own home. He relies on the walls for support, his hand tracing the familiar path with a mixture of frustration and resignation. The hallway, once a simple passage, has become an obstacle course. Pills, creams, a pharmacy of hope and disappointment lines his shelves. He's tried them all, each promising relief, each ultimately failing to deliver lasting comfort. And therapy offered little relief. The exercises brought temporary respite, but the pain always returned, a persistent shadow lurking in the background. The endless cycle of hope and disappointment wears him down. Just side effects and disappointment. The medications leave him feeling groggy and unwell, a hollow victory in the fight against pain. He pores over the prescriptions, searching for a glimmer of hope, but finds only a list of potential complications. Arthur felt like a medical experiment, poked and prodded, subjected to endless tests and examinations. He longs for a solution, a way to reclaim his life, but feels lost in a maze of medical jargon and conflicting opinions. Hope slipping away with every failed remedy, leaving him feeling defeated and alone. The weight of his condition bears down on him, crushing his spirit and dimming his once bright outlook. He spent hours in his armchair, a silent observer of a life passing him by. The chair has become his sanctuary and his prison, a place of refuge and a symbol of his limitations. A prisoner in his own body, watching the world go by outside his window. He sees children playing, couples strolling, and neighbors tending their gardens, all activities that are now beyond his reach. His world shrinking to the size of his pain, confined within the walls of his home, his horizons limited by his physical constraints. The vastness of the world outside seems a distant dream, a stark contrast to the smallness of his current existence. The vibrant craftsman was now just surviving, his days marked by a monotonous routine of pain management and quiet resignation. The spark that once ignited his creativity has been extinguished, replaced by a dull ache of disappointment. His life defined by relentless discomfort, a constant barrage of aches and pains that dictate his every move. The joy has been replaced by a persistent struggle, a battle against his own body. Pain had stolen not just his movement, but his independence, his hobbies, and his sense of purpose. The things that once brought him joy are now painful reminders of what he has lost. But his sense of self. He looks in the mirror and barely recognizes the man staring back, a reflection of pain and loss. The vibrant craftsman has been replaced by a shadow of his former self, a prisoner of his own body. The true cost of Arthur's arthritis was emotional, his relationships fading as pain took center stage. His granddaughter Lily, full of energy, wanted to play, but Arthur could only say no. He watched joy from the sidelines, unable to join in. His wife, Clara, once his partner in walks and dances, now became his caregiver. The laughter in their home grew distant, replaced by silence and worry. Arthur feared becoming a burden, losing connection with his family and himself. The ache was no longer just in his joints, but in his heart. The turning point came at Lily's 7th birthday party. She begged Arthur to dance, but pain kept him rooted to his chair. Watching her disappointment, Arthur felt a crushing sense of failure. That night, alone with his thoughts, he realized managing pain wasn't enough. He needed his life back. Pills and creams weren't the answer. He couldn't let his story end as the man who couldn't dance with his granddaughter. Something had to change. Desperate, Arthur searched for anything that might help. In the attic, he found Clara's old pamphlet, Tai Chi, Meditation in Motion. Once dismissed as odd, the words gentle and flowing now called to him. Tai Chi promised balance, flexibility, and relief without strain. It wasn't about fighting pain, but moving with it. Skeptical but out of options, Arthur tried a beginner's Tai Chi video for seniors. Alone in his living room, he mimicked the slow, mindful movements. For the first time in years, he moved with intention, not just necessity. The first sessions were awkward. A stark contrast to the graceful movements he'd envisioned. There was a sense of disconnect, a feeling of his body not quite obeying his commands. He felt clumsy, a little embarrassed even, as he tried to mimic the instructor's fluid motions. It was a humbling experience, a reminder of the physical limitations he'd allowed to creep into his life. Arthur's body resisted. Each stretch and bend met with stiffness and protest. His mind, too, doubted the process. Could this really make a difference? He wondered, as pain flared in his joints. The frustration mounted, a familiar companion in his battle against arthritis. He questioned whether he was simply too far gone, too entrenched in his physical decline, to experience any real improvement. But during those slow, deliberate movements, something shifted. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but a subtle easing, a momentary reprieve from the constant ache. He began to notice the gentle flow of energy, the way his body responded to the mindful movements, however slight. He noticed the pain soften, if only briefly. A flicker of hope ignited within him, a spark of possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, he could regain some control over his body and his pain. It was a small victory, but a significant one. He committed to 10 minutes each morning. A small, manageable chunk of time he could realistically dedicate to this new endeavor. He set his alarm, prepared his space, and resolved to meet each day with a renewed sense of purpose, focusing on consistency, not perfection. He understood that progress wouldn't be linear, that there would be good days and bad days, but he vowed to show up, to move his body, and to honor his commitment to himself, regardless of the immediate outcome. Gradually, morning stiffness eased, the initial creaks and groans diminishing with each passing day. He found himself moving with a little more freedom, a little less discomfort, as his body began to adapt to the gentle demands of Tai Chi. Standing became easier. A simple act that had once been a source of dread now felt less burdensome. He noticed a newfound lightness in his movements, a subtle shift in his physical capabilities, and his joints felt less like grinding stones. The grating sensation replaced by a smoother, more fluid motion. The inflammation seemed to subside, the constant throbbing replaced by a dull ache that was far more manageable. Tai Chi became a new language, a way for Arthur to communicate with his body, to understand its needs, and to respond with compassion and care. It was a dialogue of movement, a conversation of breath, a connection between mind and body, fluidity replacing rigidity. The stiffness that had defined his movements for so long began to melt away, replaced by a newfound grace and ease. He felt his body opening up, releasing tension, and embracing a more natural rhythm. More than exercise, it was moving meditation, a practice that calmed his mind, soothed his spirit, and brought him a sense of inner peace. He found himself lost in the flow of movement, his worries fading into the background as he focused on the present moment. Teaching him to be present and gentle with himself, to accept his limitations without judgment, and to celebrate his progress, no matter how small. He learned to listen to his body, to respect its boundaries, and to nurture it with kindness and compassion. He learned to acknowledge pain, to recognize it as a signal from his body, then guide his focus elsewhere, redirecting his energy towards healing and restoration. He discovered the power of his mind to influence his physical experience, to alleviate suffering, and to promote well-being. No longer just a victim of his condition, passively enduring the pain and limitations it imposed. He was no longer defined by his arthritis, but rather empowered by his ability to manage it. Arthur became an active participant in his own healing, taking charge of his health and well-being, and reclaiming his life from the grip of arthritis. He felt a sense of agency, a feeling of control that had been missing for far too long. Those 10 minutes became a sacred ritual, a daily act of self-care that nourished his body, calmed his mind, and lifted his spirit. It was a time for him to connect with himself, to honor his body, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude for the simple gift of movement. The first steps back to hope, a journey of healing and self-discovery that had just begun. With each sunrise, Arthur embraced the promise of a new day, filled with possibility and the unwavering belief in his own capacity to heal. Life is a series of adjustments, a constant flow of adapting to new circumstances. For Arthur, these adjustments had become increasingly challenging, each day presenting a new hurdle. But within those challenges lay the seeds of transformation. Small changes, almost imperceptible at first, began to ripple through Arthur's life, like pebbles dropped into a still pond. Clara, ever the observant and supportive partner, was the first to notice the subtle shifts. After a month of consistent effort and gentle encouragement, she noticed he moved with less pain. The stiffness that had become his unwelcome companion seemed to loosen its grip, replaced by a newfound ease. After 2 months, something truly remarkable happened. They walked together again. Not just a few steps or a hesitant shuffle, but a proper walk, hand in hand like they used to. The simple act of walking, once a painful reminder of his limitations, now became a symbol of their enduring bond and Arthur's slow but steady recovery. The rhythm of their partnership returned, step by step. Each stride was a testament to their shared commitment, a harmonious blend of support and determination. The joy of simply being together, moving in sync, filled their hearts with a renewed sense of hope and connection. The real test, the moment that truly signified Arthur's progress, came when Lily, his beloved granddaughter, asked to build a fort. This wasn't just about playtime. It was about rediscovering the joy of being an active participant in her world. This time, without hesitation, Arthur joined her on the floor, pillows and blankets in hand, ready to embark on a grand adventure. And as the day drew to a close, nestled within the cozy confines of their homemade fort, Arthur found himself reading stories to Lily until she fell asleep in his lap. The weight of her small body, the gentle rise and fall of her breath, filled him with a profound sense of peace and contentment. It wasn't just about physical strength, it was about reclaiming the skills and passions that had once defined him. His hands, once stiff and unyielding, regained dexterity. The subtle movements, the delicate touch, returned to his fingertips. Simple tasks that had become monumental challenges were now easily overcome. He opened jars with ease, a small victory that spoke volumes about his progress. Emboldened by his newfound abilities, Arthur felt a pull, a yearning to reconnect with a part of himself he thought he had lost. He returned to his workshop, a space that held countless memories and untold stories. With renewed purpose and a steady hand, he crafted a toy for Lily, pouring his love and skill into every detail. He was Arthur the craftsman again, not just a man with arthritis. The label that had threatened to define him had lost its power, replaced by the identity he had always cherished. The ultimate celebration of Arthur's journey came at the next family gathering, a joyous occasion filled with laughter, love, and the sweet melodies of music. When music played, filling the room with an infectious energy, Lily, her eyes sparkling with excitement, asked him to dance. Arthur, without a moment's hesitation, stood, took her hand, and swayed with her, sharing a moment of pure joy, a connection that transcended words and spoke volumes about their enduring love. He had found his rhythm again, not just in his body, but in his soul. The music flowed through him, carrying him on a wave of happiness and gratitude. Arthur was finally truly dancing, dancing with his granddaughter, dancing with his family, dancing with life itself. Arthur's story reminds us that hope can be found in unexpected places. He didn't find a miracle cure, but relief in gentle, mindful movement. His journey asks, are we overlooking simple tools for healing? What gentle practice could you add to your day? Tai Chi, yoga, stretching, or mindful breathing? The method matters less than the intention to reconnect with your body and spirit. What is the dance you're missing? Arthur found his. Are you ready to take your first step back to joy?